The person we're going to talk about today was one of the most famous artists of all time. He was born in 1853 in Holland, and his name was Vincent van Gogh. While he was alive, he wasn't very successful, and he was actually very unhappy and depressed. It was only after his death that he became as famous as he is today. We don't know much about his childhood, but what we do know about his life comes from the many letters he wrote over his lifetime, mostly to his brother. In fact, we have over 800 of his letters, and from these we've learnt a lot about his life. Apart from a bit of drawing, art does not seem to have been a major part of his childhood. When he was 16, however, he started working for a company that bought and sold art, an art dealer. For his work, he had the chance to travel between Holland, Paris, and London. Originally, he had wanted to follow in his father's footsteps and become a priest in a church. He wanted to do something important with his life and give something significant back to mankind. However, his brother persuaded him that he could do this with art and encouraged him to devote his life to painting. At the age of 27, he started to teach himself art, to teach himself how to draw and paint. He experimented with lots of different styles and techniques. His first major painting wasn't very successful, so he decided that he needed a real education and training in art. Later that year, he started going to an art academy, where he learnt about famous artists, their work and their techniques. He discovered many varieties of art that he hadn't seen before, such as art from Japan. This would have a big influence on him later. In 1886, he moved to Paris to live with his brother. Here, he learned about all the new trends and developments in art, and he started experimenting with these new ideas. These new modern ideas included things like using very bright colours, or taking real life and exaggerating it, distorting it. When he was in Paris, he met many other famous artists such as Monet and Gauguin. He became good friends with Gauguin, and in 1888 they moved to the south of France together. This is a very beautiful part of the world, and the light and the landscapes of this area of France were to have a big impact on his painting. Van Gogh is best known for his landscape paintings. He did lots of paintings of flowers, trees, fields, and other parts of rural life. He was very interested in showing the life of rural peasants. His paintings of sunflowers are now some of his most famous work, and are sold today for tens of millions of dollars. He first painted sunflowers when he was decorating his friend Gauguin's bedroom. He also painted many portraits of other people, but also of himself. Between 1886 and 1889, he painted 37 self-portraits. His style is very famous and distinctive. As soon as you see one of his paintings, you can instantly tell it was painted by him. He's famous for using bright colours and thick paint. He once said that instead of trying to paint exactly what he saw in front of him, he used colour to express his feelings and emotions. In just over a decade, he painted more than 2,000 works of art. However, during his life, he was often very depressed and unhappy. He even cut off part of his own ear. He eventually went to stay in a hospital to help him with his depression. While he was there, he painted a new painting almost every day, including some of his most famous work. However, he was still very unhappy. He thought his life had been a failure because he was not a very successful painter while he was alive. In fact, he only sold one painting during his entire lifetime. In 1890, he committed suicide. He shot himself with a gun and died 2 days later. It was only after his death that people started to appreciate his work. His influence on art today has been enormous, and he is now seen as one of the greatest artists of all time. His paintings are some of the most expensive in the world, and a few have been sold for more than $100 million.